So you may have seen some guitars, such as the PRS Super Eagle John Mayer Limited Edition, whatever it's called, or maybe some offerings from Fender or other manufacturers, which seem sort of designed as like Swiss Army knife guitars, something you could take to any gig and play any genre on, and it'll give you any sound you're looking for back, or at least something very close to it. And this is cool. This is inherently a more efficient and minimalist approach to guitar. I mean, if you only have to take one guitar rather than three, and you can achieve the sounds of all three on the one, that's valuable. That's even a budget-minded approach to the craft. But I think that word that I used, efficient, is the word that many of these designers forgot when they actually put pen to paper in regards to these designs. If you have 15 different switches and knobs, I exaggerate, but if you have too many doohickeys on the face of your guitar, all of which change different parameters and different elements, and maybe even some of them are redundant, such as coil split versus coil tap versus parallel. You get your in-phase, out-of-phase switches, MIDI, preamps, two different elements are required to change your pickup selection. You can get lost in the sauce. I don't want to have to open a manual just to change my pickups. Option paralysis is a real thing, and the last thing we want to do is be fiddling with our guitar when we're on stage, when the audience is waiting for the song to start, or when we're in a recording studio and time is money. So this design I have here, this Jazzmaster-based design that I mocked up here in Photoshop, is only includes the same number of controls as the American Professional 2 Series Stratocaster. You get 3 pickups, a 5-way blade switch, a volume with a push-push functionality, and 2 tone controls. But out of this setup, you can achieve 30 distinct tones. 3-0. Allow me to explain. So with 3 P90s, you're already in a world of versatility. I mean, P90s are renowned as brilliant middle-of-the-road type pickups. You can achieve very clear and clean sounds out of them. They are single coils after all. But you can also get some very raucous and raunchy rock and roll type tones out of them. I mean, heavy metal was invented on a P90 equipped SG. So you're already talking a versatile and flexible guitar when we're looking at this type of setup. And if you made them to a 5-way blade switch, which is your typical Strat type setup, you can achieve all of your Strat type tones, only a little thicker, which I think many players would appreciate. But there's a position we're missing, isn't there, out of a typical 5-way blade switch? We can't really achieve our 2 outside pickups, our typical 2 pickup in-between position, the neck and bridge on together. So there's a guitar that Fender came out with called their 60th anniversary Triple Jazzmaster, and this had 3 Filtertron pickups and a 5-way blade switch, but it also included a secondary switch, which changed the functionality of that 5-way blade switch in its 3rd position, when you had it in its middle position. In its middle position, typically, it would be the middle pickup only, but if you utilize that secondary switch, it would change that 3rd position to the neck and the bridge. I think this is a brilliant idea, and what I've done here is incorporate that into the volume control as a push-push functionality. So when you engage that, and you go to your middle position on the blade switch, you get your 2 outside pickups. But if you disengage that, you get your middle again by itself. This allows you 6 possible pickup combinations. There is a 7th, and I don't like it very much. You can see this on your David Gilmour type switching and your American Professional 2 guitars. Your 3 pickups on in parallel sound, I don't really like it. It's a very deadened and dark sound inherently just by having 3 pickups on in parallel and all the capacitance and resistance that they then see before they hit the output jack. And it's just not a very inspiring sound inherently, even if it was bright as the other positions. If I'm going for that type of sound, I'd rather just choose either the neck and middle or the middle and bridge. But all 3 together isn't a very classic sound. It's not really something I'm thinking, oh, I really want that in my song. So you can't even achieve that with this guitar. So I think that's actually good because it streamlines a path towards the sounds you really want, all the classic sounds you've always heard and you want to achieve, but you can't get lost in one that you didn't really want. So that's your pickup selection taken care of. But what about our tone control? Well, how about instead of a tone knob, we do a tone switch, and we'll move it to the upper bout, sort of where the rhythm circuit was on a vintage Jazzmaster. In the middle position on this three-way toggle tone control, you get your unadulterated sound of the P90 pickups. In the up position, it's sort of like you rolled your tone control all the way down. It would engage a tone capacitor at full. So you can get your jazzy tones, and if you throw on some distortion, you can get your Eric Clapton Cream era type tones. And in the down position on the three-way toggle switch, and this is where it gets really interesting, there are designs out there, such as the Reverend Bass Contour knob and the G&L PTB system, which are passive bass cuts. They'll roll off the bass frequencies, sort of like a reverse tone knob. And that's what this switch would include. It would include a bass cut and a low-mid cut to a set amount. But it would actually do one other thing. I lied to you when I said the middle position was the unadulterated sound of the P90s. The middle position would actually include a 500K resistor wired to mimic a 500K tone pot on full. We're used to hearing pickups run through both a volume and a tone control. Both of these elements will darken the signal somewhat. A lot of players will actually disconnect their tone control in order to get a brighter sound out of their pickups. But most of the time we're used to hearing our, especially P90 type guitars, run through both a volume and a tone control. The middle position would include a 500K resistor to mimic a 500K tone pot on full. But when we flick down the tone switch to its bass cut position, we would actually disengage that 500K ghost tone pot, serving to brighten the pickups. You could almost think of this position as your Strat mode. It wouldn't sound exactly like a Strat, but it would get you more in that territory by cutting the low frequencies and brightening the sound. And this is all passive circuitry, by the way. We don't have to have any batteries or any rechargeable elements. This is all just clever passive circuitry. So what if we not only did this toggle switch, but we duplicated it so that we had one toggle switch connected to the bridge pickup and another connected to the neck and middle? That allows you to mix and match. You can get your Strat mode on your neck and middle pickups, but leave your bridge at a full P90. You could make all of them bright. You could make all of them dark. You could make the neck and middle dark and the bridge at a full P90. Put your push-push switch into the up position and go to the middle position on the toggle or the blade switch, and there's your proper Eric Clapton woman tone if you put on some gain. You get your neck down, the tone down on the neck, and your bridge at a full chunky rock and roll sound. You can do basically anything that you want to do with this setup. 30 possible tone combinations, and all you're working with is 4 controls: a blade switch, a volume with a push-push functionality, and 2 tone controls. This kind of efficiency and this kind of segmentation as well. I mean, if your hand is down by the output jack, you're changing the pickup selection. If your hand is on the lower bout, you're changing the volume, maybe changing how that blade switch acts in its third position. And if your hand is above the strings, you're changing the tonality of the pickups. You're not going to hit something you didn't mean to when trying to do something else. This type of efficiency and deliberation, incorporated into the design is exactly the type of approach that I've always wanted out of a flexible do-anything guitar. And also the ergonomics as well. I don't like the regular implementation of a 5-way blade switch on, say, the Noventa Jazzmaster or that triple Jazzmaster I talked about earlier. They always seem to put it on the lower bout and it's horizontally positioned, which just doesn't make any ergonomic sense to me. I think moving the volume and the tone control from their typical place and then placing the 5-way blade switch diagonally right next to the output jack is a far more intuitive and ergonomic positioning. I think it's right there in the natural trajectory of your strumming hand, but it's out of the way enough that you're not going to flick it when you didn't mean to. So I think this design, especially if you had a more low to medium wind Alnico Magnet P90, it would just be the most versatile and intuitive and efficient type of guitar I can conceive of. I honestly think it's a brilliant design. My greatest hope is that somebody from Fender or some other manufacturer, or maybe some small-time manufacturer who has the money and the electrical know-how to wire this thing up, because I'm sure it'd be a beast to wire up. I hope somebody sees this and just implements some of these ideas someday. I just like to see this guitar design out there. I'd like to see this efficiency and this flexibility out there. I think the Jazzmaster is a wonderful platform for a versatile guitar, and I think P90s are a wonderful starting base for a versatile setup. And I want to see some of these ideas actually put into motion. So anyway, thank you for watching. That's my dream guitar.